Please give it up for our director and producer, Mr. Rob Lusitana. And you saw a little bit about him in the film, Mr. Coach Bob Larsen. You guys get to share.
All right, he'll do most of the talking.
Nah.
Or you can sit over here.
Yes, I was going to say something. Love that. And for all you marathoners, best of luck tomorrow. Have yourself a great one. For all the folks who are heading out to your carbo load. So, Rob, first of all, talk a little bit about what led to you creating this movie. Rob ran with... Mic's off? Off. Sorry. Hello. Back up.
Oh, wait, yeah, there it is.
All right. Rob ran with Coach Larsen at Grossmont and UCLA. Talk a little bit about what led to this film.
First of all, I'd just like to say, those credits, the first time I ever, paid attention to credits was with this film, and I gotta say, without all the people that are on that list, this film never would have gotten done. So next time you look at credits, maybe think about that a little bit. So, and then I'd also like to thank the Boston Athletic Association for their help in getting this film done. The main reason I felt like doing this film was because I wanted to honor Coach Larsen. And as you could probably tell from all the testimonial, he created an environment for the team and the individuals that helped us not only grow as athletes, but as people. And all of us have, as Tom Luck said in the film, used aspects that we learned from Coach Larsen and the team and the environment that was created.
Close the speaker, close.
Okay.
Good.
Sorry about that. Anyway, without Coach Larsen's help and the environment that he created, I think that a lot of us wouldn't have been successful and done well in life. So I felt like honoring him. All right, Rob, what was the toughest part about this? When we first started talking about this, you said you wanted to do something on the '76 team and the cross-country championships, and I was like, man, that's gonna be hard to find footage on something back in '76. Footage. Was that the toughest? Was finding archival footage?
Well, I think that was one of the major challenges we had, and I want to say thank you to all the people that contributed footage and photographs. But I think the biggest thing was this man has such a long career. He has a long and storied 50-year career with successes at every level that it's hard to get that all in an hour and 50 minutes. So I think that may have been the most difficult part.
Yeah. So Coach Larsen, when Rob first approached you and then you saw this for the first time a few weeks ago, what were your thoughts? You're not the type of guy who really likes this type of thing.
It was nerve-wracking. In fact, I told Robert not to make this film, not to do it. Nobody would be interested, except for a few of us old guys that lived it. And I really tried to talk him out of it, and thankfully I didn't. Robert, thank you so much for such a wonderful film. You can imagine.
Yeah.
You had the second part.
No.
Okay.
Well, then when you look back on it, and to me, the interesting parts of everything's interesting. The American distance running, and a lot of us really sort of remembered it, but this really pointed out the dire straits American distance running was in 2000 and throughout the 90s. What was it that's a big leap of faith. You say, I'm going to basically retire and start a whole new career at that age, and we're going to try to resuscitate American running.
You are right. If you've done the math, I'm over 100 years old.
Exactly.
And, it takes me hours to put this makeup on to look like a youthful 95. I'm throwing myself off here, I gotta pay attention. Focus, here we go. All right, the answer is,
Yes.
physiologists, for some reason, tests, you put people on a treadmill, and it comes out, you have to do a lot of intensity. Well, when you do a lot of intensity, maybe you don't have time to do enough volume.
Right.
And it happened to the swimmers too, and it happened to all our distance runners. And Seb Coe was very successful in that time period. And when his father, Peter Coe, would come over here, and they wrote a book with Dr. Martin.
David Martin, yes.
Great people. And I talked to Seb's father over here several times, and I heard him lecture. He never talked about the fact that George Gandy, who was the national distance coach in Great Britain in those days, George, he'd say 40, 50 miles, that's rubbish. Those guys are running 80-mile weeks. I think they were running a lot like we were running with a mold toads and those other guys you saw. As the Canyon started doing the same thing we've been doing, not because we did it, they didn't know we had done that stuff, but go out slow, come back hard. Canyons were doing that. And then all fall, getting ready for track and field, the Brits, including Seb, were running those 80 miles through the hills really hard. And then turn them over to Peter Coe, his father, who was his coach. But when he came over here, he would just talk about these great interval workouts they were doing, and they were doing other things. They were doing gym and everything, but too many Americans started thinking that you didn't have to do all that build-up, and that really put us behind. And and now we're catching up.
What's interesting to me is years ago, we were doing a radio interview, and we were talking about Meb and how athletes are different. Someone like a Meb, he might be less mileage than someone like Dina, and that Meb was using Kirk Pfeffer's training program, basically. And that sort of surprised me, because Kirk was running in the 70s, and Meb was running in the 90s and 2000s. But your point was, what's changed? Running is running. And even in this day and age, with heart monitors and everything else, is it that different than it was back then?
Not really. There are more similarities. We're better at all this, and we all pay attention to physiologists. I criticized them for leading some people down the wrong road for a while in the 90s, but they've done some tremendously good things, including helping us at altitude, because I was all ears trying to figure out how high to go, how long to stay up there, and when to come down, and all those types of things. But we've made great gains, because now for a while we had, when I was leaving UCLA, there were years when a single high school kid would break 9 minutes for 2 miles. These last 2 years at Arcadia Invitational alone, they have 20 guys in one race. High school kids run under 9 minutes. So it's changed that much at that level. And in college, they're breaking all the collegiate records, and the pros now are not just Meb, but there's a whole bunch of people out there just really running well. So it's been a landslide going in the right direction. And it's not all just getting back to the 60s and 70s, or 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It's a lot of other good things, and we've added to training, and Meb's tweaked some of his workouts himself, and he makes his decision on what to do in many of these workouts. And that's the best way, because who knows Meb better than Meb? And I'm there, and I'm handing him the right bottle and saying, "You're looking good," and trying to stay up on my bicycle. By the way, that old coach in there, I think he needs some stride mechanic work, and he should be doing some Meb drills, I think.
It was interesting, we were watching in that footage of the back of the toads, I saw a lot of those guys running barefoot. Was that something you did a lot of?
The high school kids, they went several years undefeated, and the top guys all ran barefoot.
In training and racing?
Oh, yeah.
Is that something you do with Meb now? Any type of training like that?
On grass sometimes, strides at the end, or, just cooling down if there's good grass, or down at the beach.
Right.
So it strengthens the foot.
Was there a point when Meb was dealing with his hip issue after the trials in 08? where you thought his career might be over?
Yeah, and in fact, you know, I didn't want him continuing on if it wasn't in his heart. I didn't want him feeling like he had to do it because of me or anybody else. That it's got to be his decision. He's done so much already. There's no reason that if he wanted to retire,
Right.
you know. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, a lot of you know, he has 2 books out. One just came out the other day. It's called Meb for Mortals. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's really good, stuff we've done over the years, and he's added some things. And the first book included the stuff about the injury and how he came back from that. And the name of that is Run to Overcome. And both those books are really helpful and inspirational. So I recommend them highly.
Robert, what did you learn about Coach that you didn't know through this whole process?
I didn't know he has a sense of humor. No, kidding. Actually, I starting this process, I sort of met Coach Larsen because I hadn't seen him in a while. And so it just reminded me of all the great things I'd learned. I think the biggest thing about this film was that I didn't really know the Keflezighi family or Meb or anything really about them. I mean, I knew who Meb was, but and really doing this film has just really opened my eyes as to, you know, what a great family they have, and really how Meb is really, I like to call him the Michael Jordan of distance running.
No question.
Because he just gets on the line and knows what he has to do and doesn't worry about anybody else. And I could certainly have used that in my running career.
So yes, go ahead, Coach.
No.
He's giving me compliments. Let me tell you what this guy did for us. One of my favorite sayings is, every dog shall have his day, which means, not that he's a dog, but if you stay in there and you go to bat often enough, maybe you will have your day. And when he moved up to UCLA with me from Grossmont College, UCLA had never qualified for the NC2A cross-country championships, and we did it our first year. And we had to beat a team that was ranked 5th in the nation to get up to 3rd, so we could go. He ran the race of his life. He, I think, was barely a scorer at the Grossmont College team the year before. That's how good those Grossmont College teams were. He came up, I think you were about 20th in the regional meet against all the schools in the West. And you were our 4th man that day, maybe? 4th man. We had 2 other Grossmont guys on that same team, and we went to nationals and then got even better.
So just to let him know, because you know he did bring that up, I'm just very clear, without my contribution to his career, he wouldn't even be sitting here.
I love that. Coach, talk a little bit about, you know, Meb's preparation for this race. And we're coming off of a high like last year. I mean, really, when you talk about the most important marathons for American in history, you got Frank Shorter in '72, Joni in '84, and what happened last year with Meb, which might be the greatest win ever. How do you have a little bit of a downtime at coming back to something like this?
Are you sure he's going to run?
I'm not, actually. He might be hanging out with us.
All right. Well, if he does run, you people have really hurt his chances, because all of you have been clapping him on his back and congratulating him. How can you get the best out of yourself when you're getting all this sweetness from everybody? So that's my concern right there. The other thing is, he has made more appearances in the last 365 days than anybody but Barack Obama. So, you know, he's probably the only guy I've ever coached that could do all these appearances, travel all around the country. He was 4th in the New York Marathon this year, and he wasn't in that kind of shape. We were up at Mammoth, and the last month, like we've just put in a month up there, and he didn't look very good until maybe the last 2 weeks before coming back here. So I didn't know what was going to happen. Usually I can predict it, but he did not look good at all. Bryce is over here, and he's the elliptical man, and those ellipticals probably saved Meb. You know, you stand up on this thing, it's like an elliptical machine, but it's got wheels on it, and you know, through Mission Bay Park and all that, and he used that, and that was enough strength, I think, that even though he didn't look so good running, he had the basic strength. And remember, it was really windy and rainy, and that's when Meb's at his best, when, you know, everybody else is kind of getting weak out there and weak in the knees, and there he goes, and he moves up at the end and he gets a 4. So for him to do that, and combined with all the appearances he made that summer, and even into the fall, that was miraculous. And now he's had good training, and not ideal, because again, there's a certain amount of this still going on, but and he should take advantage. He's a professional runner, and he doesn't have very many years left. And so for him to be out there and do these things, which he enjoys being with the public, is wonderful, but it does take its toll a little bit. But to answer your question even closer, this last month at Mammoth, we've been up there, and the workouts have really gone well. And you always wish you had a little bit more time to sharpen, but you know, he's fit enough that I think he's gonna run well tomorrow if he decides to run, and you know, I think he'll place high, and it's going to be a good experience for him.
Last year, I think after the race, Meb had some foot issues after this race, and said I think his foot was drained. I forget how many different times.
Oh, I drained it a couple times myself. I think he drained it 15 times or something.
After this race.
After this race. Yeah.
And is that still stemmed back from the breathe right thing that he had this shoe years ago?
No, this is different.
Okay.
But it's just something that a lot of marathoners will have some foot problem occasionally, but for the last about year now, he hasn't had any problem. He didn't have any problems after New York this year marathon, so of course they didn't run real fast either, and it was cool, you know, because of the weather, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that, because the blister he had he didn't make a big deal of it on the screen, but that blister he had in London during the Olympic Games was like running on a golf ball, full of fluid on both feet, right on, and you have to run on cobblestones and around turns. You know, how he did that, and then he was, you know, his stomach was churning and all that stuff, and he comes back, and what he did at the end there was just, you know, truly, you know, who does stuff like that?
When you saw him go off,
When you saw him go off the front last year, did that surprise you? Was that a plan?
Well, we talked about the fact that I thought he was ready to run 207 or 208, because twice here he'd run 209 when everything went wrong. One time they were surging way too early before the hills. Another time he strained a quad muscle at the firehouse, so 16 miles in. He still finished, and he got, I think, third that one year, and then I think 5th the other year. And again, he ran 209, and said if it's even, relatively even, you can't do the hard surging he used to be able to do. You know, he was almost 39, so talked about if he could keep it a little bit even whether he's in front or wherever he was, as long as it wasn't windy. And walking to the starting line, I'd gotten the latest report, and they thought at the worst it'd be a little bit of crosswind. It wouldn't be a bad wind at any point, so he could run his pace. So he just starts running his pace. His idea was to tuck in, but they weren't going his pace. So away he went, and you know, even 10,000 and other big races, we've done that same thing, and this time it really paid off. They made a horrible mistake, let them go too far. By the time they woke up,
It was over.
they were in trouble.
They were
big trouble.
What were your thoughts when you saw they were closing? You saw it coming down from 20 seconds to 50 to 6.
I think I was like everybody in the United States on pins and needles until the camera went back and showed Wilson Chibet and the other guy, and they're starting to run like this.
The form.
Right, and Meb is still doing this, and that saved him. If he had started doing this, which he never does, I mean, you heard it in the film, it makes all the difference in the world, and for everybody, if you can keep your technique stride mechanics clean when you're fatigued, rather than getting sloppy. And the two canyons were getting sloppy. And when I saw that, and I looked at Meb, the pain was on his face. I mean, clearly he was hurting. But when I saw what he was doing, I thought, yeah, pretty good chance he's going to be able to hold him off. And he went down under that last underpass. You guys that have run it, you know, down the hill. He's so smooth and good down the hill and up the other side. And when he did that, when he came up on the other side, he had gained a little bit on Wilson.
Yeah.
And then I knew that pretty much he had it.
So with the weather obviously a little different this year than last year, it'd be cooler, probably some rain, wind. What's the strategy any different?
Yeah, you have to be careful. He still likes to lead some of it, and I don't want to give away too much here.
There's
because
nobody
we've got
here.
scouts sitting in the audience. They're paid scouts for other groups, but even he led in New York into the wind, and of course everybody afterward, why is he leading into the wind? Because it's a disadvantage. But if he had let it get really slow, roll this one again.
You're still good.
Okay. If he lets it get too slow, he doesn't have the speed at his age at the end of the race to hold the guys off. So he had to keep an honest pace, even though it meant sacrificing himself a little bit into the wind. And he did that, and he got up to fourth place. He shouldn't have been fourth in that race the way he looked like. He just wasn't sharp enough to get top four.
Right.
But the inclement weather and all of that, and then eliminating people by pushing and getting it down to just a few, you know, he ended up in fourth. And it could happen here too. He is, as I said, there's an advantage for him when things are not good. He's just a little bit tougher and stronger than anybody else.
Like in a horse race, he's a mutter.
He's a mutter.
Exactly. So Robert, when did you start making this film?
About 3 years ago.
So at that time, I mean, everything that's happened since, this thing started dying out. Everything that's happened since, when you went into it, you weren't thinking, okay, we're going to the Olympics, and then we're gonna go to Boston. I mean, a lot of great stuff has happened in the midst of this, which I'm sure has made you change a little bit what your plans were for the film.
Yeah, I think we've changed the ending of the film like 5 times. So we told Meb, I don't care what he does today or tomorrow, that'll have to be in the sequel.
We're not changing it.
We're not changing this. So, yeah, so that was difficult.
Yeah, but
it's
it's made it great.
Yeah.
The plans for the film, in terms of what you guys saw it, we think it can play around the country. What are your plans?
Well, you know, I'm obviously would like to have as many people see this film as possible. So we're going to try to do some more of these showings and maybe send it out to some film festivals and see if we can get some interest, some backing, and some positive flows from people so that we can maybe get it out, whether
Right.
it be a digital deal or, you know, a major motion picture picks it up, or just, you know, like I said, just actually getting it out to people, however we can do that, because it's a great story.
Physically, you're here. I think right now, maybe you're mentally ready at this level. Now, we're gonna work on this so we get you here and you can be consistently as good as you are potentially physically. And if we do that, and then when you have that, each dog should have his day, you're already running at that level. Otherwise, you could have that day and you don't get it done because you're not used to pushing yourself that way. So it's really important. And so we work on stuff like that. And I have a whole bunch of little mental drills or suggestions. And it's different for each person I work with because they have a different way of seeing things. And some people like Meb are so good anyway, but he has on occasion, not recently, but at UCLA, he screwed up one NC2A race because he couldn't sleep at night because he was running it through his mind too much. But he never made that mistake again. And that's not good coaching on my part either. I didn't anticipate that he was going to try to break the record and leave everybody, and he was just trying to do too much that day, and it caught up with him. But you're trying to for most people, I think you're trying to get them to be calm enough. I tell people you can never have too many calm people around you in athletics because it's so intense. There's so much anxiety in athletics. And some people, that anxiety destroys what they potentially could do. So you're trying to calm everything down around them. And you can have one or two cheerleaders, that's fine. But all of you can't be cheerleaders. Somebody's got to be making some clear decisions in a quiet voice, hopefully. So that's been my role.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about distribution plans, or, you know, you said you're gonna try to get some back, and what, you know, would it take to get it out on either digitally like Netflix or YouTube or?
Well, I've spoken to some people, and really what it takes to get it out is interest from the public. I've been told that the way to do that is to do some of these things and to send it out to festivals and get some support and get some probably social media backing, and you can garner interest. And then once that happens, you know, that's when you can possibly get a digital deal. And of course that takes support from, you know, financial support. So whether it's we get a sponsor or some other type of thing, all those things can help.
Robert, do you have a website where they can respond to what they liked and what they didn't like here?
Yeah, of course. The website is www.boblarsenfilm.com. Pretty easy to remember.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed the film, do us a favor and put it out on social media. I like the film. I'd love it to come to our area, and let's create some buzz.
CBL Films. It's hashtag CBL Film.
Hashtag CBL Film. Yes, sir.
So really enjoyed it. Very inspirational in so many ways, and I want to publicly invite a viewing or a partial viewing for an event we're hosting on May 31st in San Diego to raise money for the Meb Foundation.
There you go.
We did an event last year. We would do it again. It's the same day as the Rock and Roll Marathon.
Okay.
And so we'd love to show part of the film, at least at that event. And anybody in San Diego, or going to be in San Diego, we'd love for you to join us for that event. But I would love to get Coach's prediction on the U.S. men's Olympic marathon team. That's going to be.
Ask for Coach's prediction on the U.S. men's marathon team for 2016. There we go.
Who's going to be on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to catch me talking about that, right? Right? Get out of here.
There's one guy. We
Get
got
out of here. Before we go any further,
Yes.
I want to thank Bob Babbitt. He's a tremendous person in our sport and triathlon and everything else, and he's been in San Diego forever and publishing news magazines and books, and talk a little bit about what you have going on right now so people are aware of, you know, what you have out there.
This is all about you, Coach. Come on now. You can check out interviews with Coach Larson, a lot of the athletes on our BabbittVille.com radio show and podcast. We've had interviews with all the top athletes out there, all the endurance athletes. We're doing it since 1990, and we've had close to 300,000 downloads since August. So it's been a lot of fun, and you guys can check that out. How about another round of applause for Coach Larson, our director and producer. Thank you all for coming. And again, who's racing tomorrow? Yeah, you guys are going to have the best race ever. Enjoy yourself.